Pokemon is a series in which I got into when I was a child, like many of you. This is a series that has resonated with me since I grew up, whether I was playing the card games at the playground when I was a kid, starting my adventures in Sinnoh for the first time with Pokemon Pearl, or even now, still battling and collecting Pokemon like any Pokemaniac would. These absolutely adorable and downright cool looking Pokemon have always been a part of my life. I mean, my setup is filled with Pokemon themed plushies among all the others I have. As you can probably tell from me gushing even just a tiny bit, I am a big fan of these creatures and wherever they end up. From the latest new Pokemon games, a new trading card set, or even a new plush toy or collectible figure. You will likely see me trying to throw my wallet like a Pokeball, trying to catch them all. And I have no regrets. That is until I go bankrupt. But let's go down memory lane and see just how I got stuck into this rabbit hole. I used to love trading cards. I mean, I like them now, but I used to collect all sorts. Yu-Gi-Oh cards were what I was obsessed with a lot as a kid. I only got into them because of some kid handing me an Arabi card randomly one day in kindergarten. No idea why that memory is so vivid. From there, it led me to collecting the cards and watched the show quite a lot. But this video isn't about Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon was similar for me though. Some kids were on the playground trading Pokemon cards and I just wanted to get into whatever they were doing and learn more. I begged my parents for the cards and eventually wanted to learn more about them. I loved the water type Pokemon the most and made a whole theme deck surrounding that type. I still didn't know how to play the game itself though. I stuck to just collecting the pretty creatures in the cards and just hoped some of them I got were rare and holographic. After some time, I did end up watching the first 3 Pokemon movies due to getting some of them on VHS from a pawn shop back then. I never even knew what any of the names for the Pokemon were. It was so curious about the series and where these Pokemon lived. So, lo and behold, afterwards I ended up watching almost all of the Pokemon movies, some when they were airing, and I adored those times a lot. I still go back to watching a few of these movies when times are rough too, since a lot of them are very comforting. I got into the show and even had a game gifted to me from a friend. That was Pokemon Fire Red. And while I remember some things about it, my purest true Pokemon memories and my proper first experience was with Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. Pokemon Diamond and Pearl are the biggest reasons I am so deeply in love with the franchise to this very day. From the day I picked this game up with my family at a Toys R Us, I was overjoyed. I watched all the trailers and was told how cool both Palkia and Dialga were at school. At this time, all this excitement filled me and realized it was my first proper Pokemon game being played. I have some of the fondest memories of this time period, and the moment I got my hands on my copy of Pearl, I was hooked. It went from just trading Pokemon cards with friends at school once in a while, to trading Pokemon and collecting as many as I could within the games all the time. The Sinnoh region was my stomping ground, and as a child I was practically having the whole entire region memorized. Each new town and city still bring me to a point where I smile and remember the simpler times. This was until my DS ran out of charge though. I indulged in Pokemon battles and contests all the time, and even went underground to visit other trainers, mine for stones, and anything else I could really find and do down there, plus make secret bases. This time period was so carefree for me, and upon Pokemon Platinum releasing later down the line, it was the same thing all over again. Generation 4 out of all the generations pushed me to be a Pokemon master, and are games I cherish more than ever as of late. Around the tail end of the 4th generation, I noticed several of the same friends I was playing the game with starting to lose interest or were looking to play the next Pokemon game. At the time, most of us kids didn't know about which game was next for a while, and finding out Generation 2 games were getting remade was super awesome. I never played the original, obviously, because I was too young, so for me this was such an exciting moment, and I even convinced my cousin to buy a copy of the game so we could play it together when we hung out. I was aware of the Pokemon in this generation, since I caught a few of them in Pokemon Platinum, so I was always in awe of seeing the newer and more unfamiliar Pokemon and just loved exploring the Johto region loads. I remember after hearing about these games, I watched the trailers all the time at my mom's work and bugged her to get me the game over and over again. Eventually, my high speech skill as a kid got me the game, and much like with Diamond and Pearl, I was hyper fixated on this game off the jump. The moment the car drove out the parking lot, I was in the backseat unboxing the game and admiring the artwork and the game itself. This game introduced me to the first real era of Pokemon. It introduced me to shining hunting, and introduced me to a majority of my party being max level. Yeah, that's right, I didn't know how to hit level 100 until these games. Having the entire Kanto region within this game as well was such a fantastic post-game reward, and was the best way to cap off the 4th generation. I did play the other spin-off titles, but most of my time was spent within these games. The same sentiment can also be said for Pokemon Black and White with the 5th generation as well, but we would be here all day if I added that into the fray. As time went on, I never really got tired of Pokemon, but the 3DS era was where I did have a lull, and never was really gripped by the system and its offerings. Pokemon X and Y, although being great games, was never completely reeling me in, as I was in Generation 4 and 5. And this time, I actually branched out and tried other games. I wanted something new from Pokemon, something that made me want to be a trainer again. Sun and Moon had quite the eventful pre-launch leak, and despite being on the internet constantly, I never even heard or saw any of those leaks. I was blissfully unaware, but that was a major blessing. I woke up early in the morning and remember going to the store to pick up my copy of Pokemon Moon the day it came out. What sucked though was I was really sick. Yeah, around this time, I was bedridden for well over a month, and despite working on music, there wasn't really many comfort games and games in general that were really helping kind of ease the mental side of being sick, you know? So Generation 7 and being fully blind to this game was a great piece of medicine. Despite how sick I was, I find this time oddly sentimental, because I made some of the best music here, and all of it was heavily influenced by Sun and Moon's late game music. The switch to a region based on Hawaii made it feel like a vacation, despite living in a state that is viewed as a vacation destination as is. A home away from home, if you can say that. The starters, the new Pokemon, and I know this game was not everyone's favorite, but between this and the upgraded versions the Generation 7 got, brought me back into feeling like a kid again. I was scared of growing up, and still am, and I'm also scared of enjoying Nintendo stuff as a teenager, but after this, who cares? Like, enjoy what you love, and be proud of it. So, thanks Gen 7. You did a lot for me. Also, Animal Crossing New Leaf and Mario Kart 7 too, of course. To put a long story short, Pokemon has been with me since I was a child, and seeing each of these games and each generation have a major impact on me is significant in its own right. There are several games I have played in the series like Black and White or Ruby and Sapphire that were great games. I will still pull up the music from those games all the time and reminisce about the days of being a kid and playing my DS on any long car trip I had. I have had many adventures through many of the regions, and as an adult now, I still see this heart of gold Pokemon has in its core. I know many people might view the franchise in various different lights, some good and some bad, but I feel as if for me, I can't ever push a full negative view on something that defined so much of what I did for fun as a kid. Though it isn't exempt from critique, of course. Aside from all that, I made friends and many precious memories with most of Nintendo's franchises, and Pokemon is the one that really stuck around after all this time. From the beginning in Diamond and Pearl, I knew this was going to be a meaningful game, and recalling everything about my childhood with this series, I am really grateful that despite now being older, I still get to be a kid at heart.